introduce myself. My name is Patricia, and we also have three amazing ladies, Nidhi, Michelle, and Irene. If you guys could wave to the audience. So these amazing ladies are from our student ambassadors. So they are all current students in the full-time MBA program. They have basically, or they have almost gone through the full program. They're almost at the end of the tunnel. They're seeing the light. And today they will be sharing their experiences in the program, either from their summer experience, their internship, or from their exchange, because Michelle is calling from Copenhagen right now. She's on exchange. So really, really exciting things in the program, and you get to hear from them directly. So if you do have any questions that you wonder, what it feels like to be in the program, where is the best place to have lunch, or what is the best student club, they are the right people that you ask. All right. Okay, so let's move on to the agenda of today. So we want to talk about the program overview, just in case if some people who are joining on the call are first time joining these events, you want to hear about the program, and we'll talk about the internship and summer experiences from our ambassadors. And we also want to touch on our global immersion experience, which is a 2 weeks in-country global experience that's built into your program. And then at the end, we'll have some question and answer. All right, so let's jump right into it. So first of all, I want to talk a little bit about Vancouver. Okay, so I think it's really important, especially if you are from outside of Vancouver, either another city in Canada or anywhere from North America, or you're an international student. I think it's really important because this is going to be the place where you spend at least a year and a half of your life, right? You want to make sure you're moving into a place that you like. You want to make sure you're moving into a place that's comfortable. And for a lot of you, you might want to stay in Canada for longer. You might want to stay in Vancouver to work. You might get your postgraduate work permit. So you might be here for 3 years, 5 years. We don't know. So when we talk about Vancouver, first of all, it is a very sustainable city. It's a very green city. There's a lot of environmental initiatives that's built into the city, into the industries. And also it is a hub for a lot of startup companies. And it's a hub for a lot of tech companies. So when we talk about job market and when we talk about the industry environment here, it's very good for fresh graduate students to look for either your internship, your co-op opportunities, or your first job after graduation. And I will also touch on how our school is going to help you to find your internship and to find your job after graduation, just in a minute. And speaking of the living environment, Vancouver has a really mild climate. So compared to the rest of Canada, Vancouver is probably the warmest in winter. We can all testify that. Don't quote me. It's not that we don't get snow. We do get snow once or twice in a year. I think last year we actually had a week that's -5, but compared to the East Coast, which is -20, -30, very often, we are very lucky. And if you do like snow and snow activities, you drive up north for 2 hours, you get to Whistler, which is one of the top ski resorts in the world. And there's also a lot of outdoor activities. In summer, you could go hiking, you could go kayaking, there's mountain biking. There's just so much that Vancouver could offer you that's outside of your classroom. Because I do believe when you're joining a program, it's not 24/7 you're studying, right? You do need to enjoy your life. You do need to spend time with friends. You do have to be in nature once in a while. So Vancouver has the perfect combination between a city life and a nature life. And back to UBC. So when students are wondering, or some people, they ask me, like, why do I choose UBC between all these offers that I have, between all these other universities in Canada, in North America? So there's a couple reasons that why students choose UBC Sauder. So first of all, it's our global reputation, or I would say global ranking, that always stay robust. So we have been ranked #1 business program in Canada, and we tie with University of Toronto. We actually have been ranked #1 for the past 7 years in a row. And in terms of curriculum design, so in your second semester, you get to take courses that we call them track courses. So basically, we call them track courses because they're closely tied with 6 career tracks, so 6 different industries, which means if you are someone who are looking to switch or you're trying to shift your career into a different industry, you're exploring different options, you're trying to get ready and get prepared for the future in case you want to explore new career opportunities, this is perfect opportunity for you because you get to, take courses and you get to get connected with professors in those 6 careers, which they have been experts for a number of years. They will connect you with their network, with their connections, and you will explore those new opportunities. So right now we have climate, we have innovation and entrepreneurship, we have finance, we have product and service management, we have technology leadership, and we also have a custom track, which means for people who cannot decide which one do I like the most, or I just like all of them, I want to take all of them, you can actually choose the custom track and mix and match and choose whatever courses that interest you. So I'll talk a bit more about that just in a minute. And we also have in the same semester, the 2-week global immersion experience, which is really truly the highlight of the program. I think everybody who have participated in the GIE program loved it. And we have videos later to show you what people did. And our ambassadors will also share their experience in those particular countries that they went to. And in your third semester, the 4-month semester is designed for your full-time internship time. So I think majority of the people in the program, they choose to do the internship, but you also have the opportunity to do an industry project or an entrepreneurial project if that's something that you like. So this will give you time to start accumulating your work experience in Canada. You will get your network started. You will start building your connections in whatever industry that you're interested in. So really, it's a good time for you to have a taste of what it's like to work full time. And our Business Career Center will try our best to make sure you have the support you have the resources you have, and I'll just give you all the details in a minute. And the last reason, so it says GNAM here. So basically it's short for Global Network of Advanced Management, which is a network made of 32 prestigious business schools all around the world. So if you haven't heard of the network, but you must have heard of some of the schools that's in the network, such as Yale School of Management, Oxford University in the UK, UC Berkeley in the US. So they're all the schools in the same network. And UBC is the only Canadian school that's part of the network, which means as a UBC MBA student, you get to take courses from any of the member schools free of charge. Okay, so that's the overview that I'm going to give you, and I'll show you more details in just a minute. So about the global immersion experience, the GIE experience. So this is these are the places that our students went to last year. There's Chile, Santiago in Chile, Cape Town in South Africa. There's Singapore. I think this year they're adding Germany. I haven't heard from the students who went to Germany yet. So that's coming up in the next year's webinar. And Michelle and Nidhi will talk about their experience in about, I think, 10 minutes. And then for the GNAT network, so you can see some of the schools that's in the same network. And if you're curious what schools are in the same network, just Google GNAM members. You will see a full list of the schools. There are 32 of them. So the really exciting part is that there are 2 options for you to be part of the GNAM network. You could either do online courses, which fits for people who don't have the flexibility to travel, or you can join the in-person 1-week GNAM week. Basically, it's intensive courses where you travel to that school for 1 week and you just join the 1 week of intensive courses that they design for you, and then you come back and then continue with your program. So there's flexibility, there's choices for you. So if you're interested, make sure after you join the program, talk to the program manager and see how you get the process started. And just a little reminder on our admissions requirements. If you haven't checked them out, make sure you visit our website. So there's a couple of different things that you have to meet before you are qualified for our program. So everything is listed on our website. And there's one particular thing, which is our GMAT, our GRE requirement. So it is required, but we do have a waiver that you can apply for. So let's say if you don't have the score and you don't have time to study for it, and if you do have some previous courses that you've taken, you might be eligible to apply for the waiver. And I've listed on the screen. You can also find this on our website that's under our admissions requirement. So there are 5 different requirements that you can choose to meet for the waiver. The most common one would be from your bachelor's degree if you have 2 or more quantitative courses. By quantitative courses, we mean all the math related courses. So it has to be pure math. If you have an econ, if you have a finance, usually those don't count. It has to be a math course. So if you think you meet any of these requirements, you just need to fill out the statement of qualification form and then upload the form onto your application portal. So just make sure that you check that out when you submit your application. And a little reminder on the deadline, because we're approaching our second deadline, which is on January 10th. So if you are an international student, you're trying to apply, make sure that you don't apply later than March 11th. That's the latest that you should apply for. If you're domestic, you have until May 6th next year to submit your application. But I have to say, if you are an international student, try to aim for the January 10th deadline, because after you apply for the program, if you're admitted, you get your acceptance letter. It takes another couple months for you to get your study permit. And you always want to have, more time than you need, just in case if there's any delays, if you have to submit or give them additional documents, all those things take time. And if you need on-campus housing, it's always good that if you, apply earlier than later so that you make sure you get a room. So I would say if you have time, make sure you catch the January 10th deadline. If you can't, absolutely have no time before January 10th, then March 11th is your final deadline as an international student. Now, I would like to introduce our ambassadors. They will introduce themselves. They will tell you their stories, their experiences in the program. So first up is Irene. Yeah, so Irene, if you want me to just switch the slide, just let me know and say next slide. I'll change the slides for you.
Wow. Sure, perfect. Thank you, Patricia. Hello everyone. My name is Irene, and a very quick introduction about myself. I'm originally from Taiwan, and my background, I studied industrial management as my major in my undergrad, and I'm also minored in intellectual property. And before coming to Southern to study my MBA, I worked in different roles in different fields. I worked in in-house digital marketing before, and then before I switched to aviation, I worked in Hong Kong as a flight attendant for 2 years, and then I went back to Taipei again. I worked in operations in supply chain fulfillment as a project manager, and then I come to Vancouver to solder. And when I am off work or when I'm not studying, I love dogs, and I also love beach. So that's one of the big reason that I chose Vancouver as my destination. And I also really like aerial yoga. It's a habit of mine that I started this year, I believe, and I'm enjoying a lot so far. My guilty pleasure, of course, very Taiwanese stereotypically. I like boba, and I also love hot pot. And luckily for me, I can find both of them easily in Vancouver. Yeah, and we can go to the next slide. I'll talk about my summer internship experience. So for all most of the MBA students, we did a internship in our summer. For me, I interned at Ole Cocktails. It's a small company, it's a small startup, but they are growing very fast. So they recently got acquired by a very big alcoholic or not alcoholic, sorry, alcohol or beverage company, which is a good news for them. And I worked there as a financial operations analyst intern. Most of my job is about production planning, material resource planning, and I also do sales data reporting for my team. On the right, you can see one picture. It's me with Olay's product. And when I was kayaking, as Patricia mentioned earlier, there's a lot of really pretty beach and lake and mountains around Vancouver. So yeah, I believe that was one day, Friday after work. And a lot of our classmates, we just went to Deep Cove together for kayaking. And it was really a fun day. And again, as Patricia mentioned, like just don't miss out the great opportunities and activities here in Vancouver. And on the very right is my colleague's dog. His name is Dog, and he's my highlight of the summer.
Right. Thank you, Irene, for sharing your summer experience. And now let's go to
You.
Michelle.
Hi everyone, my name is Michelle, and a quick introduction about myself. So, for me, I did my undergrad in Australia, majoring in accounting and finance, followed by a 1 year language school in Shanghai. Unfortunately, as of right now, my Mandarin skill is quite rusty. And well, right now I am calling from Denmark. And studying ESG and clean energy transition as part of a minor that I am doing. Following my undergrad, I have around 5 years of working experience across a multitude of sectors, I would say, but primarily focused on either finance or entrepreneurship. And I also started my own food tech company based in Jakarta, Indonesia. Uh, Similar to Irene, I'm also fond of mammals, but different sort of mammals. I have two cats, whom I love very much, and I also enjoy two very distinct yet related activity, food and fitness, particularly when it comes to pastry, hence one of the reasons why I chose Copenhagen for my exchange destination. Yeah, a few interesting facts about myself. I am a bit of an adrenaline junkie, so I've done skydiving and bungee jumping. Um, and I also have a food blog. Unfortunately, I'm pretty bad at one thing, which is biking, but fortunately for me, Nidhi kindly taught me how to bike during the summer, actually in Vancouver. So that's a new skill that I have.
It's a nice skill to have. There's a lot of biking
Very, very
paths.
useful, yes, in Copenhagen.
Exactly.
A little bit about my internship experience. So, I actually did my internship in a venture capital firm based in Canada. It's called the 51 Food and Agtech Fund. As the name implies, we are a sector specific venture capital, which essentially means we invest money trusted to us by institutional or wealthy individuals to startup that operates in food or agriculture value chain. And what that meant for me in terms of my internship experience was attending a lot of startup events, connecting with founders or other players in the startup ecosystems, and really polishing my skills when it comes to market research or financial analysis. And maybe to reiterate what Patricia said about your internship allowing you the opportunity to build a network, maybe I can chime in a bit because as of right now, I am still working with the fund as well as in a part-time capacity as I finish my degree. So again, that's one of the example of how your internship can transition into, I suppose, more long-term opportunities as well, because I will also be continuing with the fund afterwards.
Yeah, thank you for adding that. I always tell students, if you do a good job in your internship work, and of course if they have a position, they want to keep you. You've been trained, you know everything. If they enjoy working with you, of course they want to retain the employee they already have. So make sure that when you do internship, you're not just there to, spend time. Make sure you are doing it for your future career as well. Thank you, Michelle. All right, let's go to Nidhi, last but not least.
Hi everyone, this is Nidhi. Thank you, Patricia, for the introduction. A bit about myself. I have an undergrad in STEM. It's chemical and food engineering that I did. Prior to coming to the MBA, I actually have a bunch of experience. Actually, I might be the one of the older ones in the cohort or more experienced one in the cohort. I have an experience of being a founder and I exited the company. I have extensive experience working on social media. I was working in the food and medical device sector in the early years of my career as well. Um, as both Irene and Michelle mentioned, I am also a mammal fan, though I like cats and dogs both. But I have had rescue dogs. I still have one. She's my fourth rescue. And I love working with animals, especially in shelters and rescue work. I love to travel. I've traveled like 30 plus countries. I'm a yoga instructor. That's also a fun fact about me. And I love photography. And my guilty pleasures is also food. I'm a big tea lover. And yeah, that's something about me. And if we talk about internships, I think there's a question. Can go to the next one. If I talk about my internship, if for people who are not out for joining us outside of Canada, Rogers is one of the biggest telecommunication companies in Canada, and I worked with Rogers on the innovation team. They run innovation not in-house, but through partnerships with educational institutions, and in this case, it's UBC. I was specifically working on their lab to launch program for 5G research. So there are a bunch of things that happen within applications of 5G because 5G is something that connects more number of devices per square kilometer, and that's where it becomes very useful to run enterprise applications in, say, mining or healthcare. That the sectors I was specifically targeting on was augmented reality, virtual reality. And, you know, as Patricia mentioned, as Michelle mentioned, and Irene mentioned, I think an internship is a great way to kind of build your network, build your connections. I think through my internship, I got to meet like a lot of founders, a lot of people in the startup ecosystem. So that's one big area of potential that, you know, your internship can have if you choose wisely. With that, I'll just pass it on to Patricia again.
All right, thank you very much. I actually see a question just now in the chat box. I think it will be great for Nidhi to answer because, you know, from your experience, you know, what's the support that you received from UBC, from Sauder, that's offered to entrepreneurs?
Well, I think there are different touch points within Sauder that you get as a support for entrepreneurship. There is a track which is innovation and entrepreneurship. Very early on in the MBA, one of your foundational courses is fundamentals of entrepreneurship, which gives you kind of an idea about what to expect in terms of ecosystem and also in terms of like subjects that follow up. For the entrepreneurship track, there are two mandatory subjects. One is technology entrepreneurship, which is more like a simulation of how it feels like to be an entrepreneur. So takes you through the process of market research, validation, funding, you know, what everything is, and you kind of make your own startup. Also, you hire a team, you pick your people. By the way, that's the only program that is with STEM. So you get to work with either PhDs or people from the Masters of Engineering program, and kind of get a first-hand experience to what it's like to like build a team, have an idea of a product, how to validate it. You talk to actual people who are in the ecosystem to kind of validate your thought process, understand some aspects of how funding could be, how IPs could be. Towards the end of this course, which by the way runs 2 terms, so it's 4 months, you get to showcase your pitch to actual investors or people in the ecosystem who understand IP, who understand investment. So I think it's a good segue to kind of learn and be hands-on with what entrepreneurship is. Another mandatory course for entrepreneurship is entrepreneurial finance, which is more on understanding the funding side of things, the finance side of things, how it works. I think Michelle can add a lot there because it's a lot to do with venture capital too. And if I talk about the ecosystems and the support that you get within Sauder there's also, by the way, CDL that happens towards the end of the program. So I'm doing it right now. CDL is a, like a 2.0 version of technology entrepreneurship because you get to experience things on a lens, which is now an investor lens. So you evaluate ventures on how an investor would think about them. And again, the final pitch again goes to a VC and they critically evaluate your work. But that's like a snapshot. There are also ecosystems within UBC, which is either UBC, there's a program called Hatch. Again, you get access to CDL, but I'll pass it on to Michelle because I'm sure both Michelle and Irene can add because they did CDL and Techie both.
Thank you, Nidhi. Patricia, I just want to confirm that we have enough time for me to also chime in for this question.
Yes, go ahead.
Perfect. So yes, to follow up on what Nidhi has just said, in terms of support offered to entrepreneurs, and I'm not sure if you're referring to academic perspective in terms of the courses, or you actually have your own businesses that you would like to leverage the networks that UBC has in order to grow the business, perhaps. So when it comes to the first one, I agree with what Nidhi said. I won't touch on Tech E just because she has talked extensively about it. But when it comes to entrepreneurial finance, I think it is such a good opportunity for people that comes from perhaps non-finance background to truly understand how businesses need to be run in order to be profitable and also scalable, because you understand the concept of things like burn rate and also the illusion. If you want to raise money, how can you protect your interest, your company, or how can you accommodate different expectations coming in from investors. And those are something that was taught in entrepreneurial finance. So very useful if you plan on actually starting your own business either now or in the future. Now, when it comes to actual resources for existing businesses, E at UBC would be your best bet because they do occasionally create program that is exclusive to students. So one of their earlier program, it's called Founder Something, allows you to go to them with your idea and they can provide you with resources to help validate the idea, see whether there's appetite in the market, maybe talk to one of the consultants, and essentially provides you almost with a what do you call it, like a safe kind of environment to experiment. And CDL, while you won't necessarily be able to participate as founders because you're a student, you will be able to register for the course and be able to work with some of the startups that are currently participating in the CDL programs. And through it, you can see from the mentor's perspective, and the mentors are successful entrepreneurs or the partners at venture capital firms, things that they look for in terms of what makes a good founder, what makes a good company, and through it learn from some of the best people in the industry.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it sounds like let's say if somebody's interested to becoming an entrepreneur, you can take the course and get understanding and everything. And if someone has already been doing their business, if they want to tap into the resources, there's multiple things they can do as a student. And let's say even if they cannot become a funder that's part of the CDL system as a student, after they graduate, they can always apply to be one of the funders as well, right?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Irene, I wonder if you had a similar experience with the entrepreneurship side of things in the program, or you were doing different things.
Yeah, I took Tech E as well, and I took CDL the part one. So I think Nidhi and Michelle covered most of it. Like I just think entrepreneurial resource in general is a pretty strong trial track in solder. So yeah, it was really fun. It was very intensive, but it was really fun.
I see. Well, thank you very much. All right, so let's move on to the next part. So I'm going to invite Irene to talk about basically the summer experience, the BA 512, how this course is like. What is this course about? How do you do it? What's the options and everything?
Yeah,
There you go,
sure.
Irene.
I'll just give a brief introduction to how the overall summer experience works. So, as Nidhi, Michelle, and I briefly touched upon on our summer experiences, all of us did internship in the summer. And also, as Patricia mentioned, this is the most popular choice among the MBA students. So we can do an internship in the summer, minimum 8 weeks, and maximum it's 16 weeks, 4 months. So minimum 2 months and maximum 4 months, because there's 1.5 credit to like this course. It's a course in essentially. And the internship opportunity, it can either be local here in Vancouver or it can also be national. I believe some of our classmates did their internship in cities like Toronto, and it can also be international. There's really no limit to it, and it can also be paid or unpaid. I think a lot of the reason why a lot of us did internship is because, first of all, it's because it's a really good opportunity for us to like launch yourself into the Canadian job market or get the first Canadian working experience, which is very important, especially for international students like me or like us. And also, a lot of positions are paid, so you can get a little bit extra money during the summer, which is really nice. In terms of finding an internship opportunity, as Patricia mentioned as well, we have a BCC Business Career Center, and we have career coaches there for any career related support. And if you have a specific industry that interested in, or a specific company that you're interested in, BCC is also a very good resource because you can reach out to the coaches there, and they have very strong network here in Vancouver with all the alumni, so they can provide support and basically introduce you to some people that you might be interested in chatting with. And also, but aside from all the BCC and Souther support, self-search and like our your own work is also really important. And BCC also have a job board. It's called Cool, that is dedicated just only for Souther students. So it's a really good resource for us to apply for jobs. But with that being said, no job opportunity is guaranteed or is given to us. We still have to do all the work to apply for a job and to go through all the interviews by ourselves. So yeah, it's also a very good learning experience, I would say. But if internship or if like working in the summer is not what you want to do, there's also a lot of flexibility for us to do either entrepreneurial project or industry research project. And there's some details to entrepreneurial project and industry research project, but essentially you will also you will just have to do a project and produce and like do a report, and there will be professors supervising the whole process just to make sure you're also on track. And before the actual summer experience or before summer starts, Sutter actually holds, I believe, not only one, like maybe several, but at least one very detailed info session regarding the overall summer experience in detailed about internship or about the requirements for entrepreneur projects or industry research projects. So rest assured, like these information will be communicated by Sauter very, very clearly before summer. And the thing about entrepreneur project or industry research project that I think is worth mentioning here is just that they also counted towards the 1.5 credit. So it's not that if you're not doing internship, you can like be free or enjoy the summer. Like you still have to like do this project professionally as an MBA student.
Thank you, Irene. I think I'll just add a little bit on the BCC support. So for our Business Career Center, once you enter the program from the first day till the last day, you have your career development support from our BCC department. So I've always told students that, working with the BCC, working with the career coaches and career strategists, it's like working with a therapist, but it's for your career. So they work with you one-on-one. They know, how to tackle where do you find your strengths, where do you find your weakness, who are the people you should talk to. Let's say if you want to work for Lululemon, who have graduated from Sauder, who are working at Lululemon right now, that you should connect with on LinkedIn, right? So they make sure that you have all the tools that you needed to get it started for you, especially if you're an international student, you don't have a lot of network in Canada. They make sure they give you that to start with. And if you have not seen our employment report, you should download it. So for anybody who have not seen our employment report, just Google UBC MBA employment report. You should be able to see it on our website. On the report, you will see for every year, there's 2 cohorts data on it. You see where do people find their internship. Either is in BC, in Ontario, internationally. How much money did they get? What's their average salary? What's the industries that they got jobs in? So you kind of see like where are the jobs are, where are the popular positions, and you see all our hiring partners. There's hundreds of them. Basically, you see like all the companies that's always hire from our students. So if you see some of the companies they're interested in, make sure you talk to your career coach and get support from that. I do see there's a question from the chat box that somebody's wondering about the consulting clubs, if any of you have been part of. So who wants to start? I'm sure somebody has.
I can take that, but if you wanted to, Anil, if you wanted to like unmute yourself and ask the question like in a little more detail, like what exactly you're aiming for would be super helpful, but otherwise I can just go for it. Do you wanna unmute yourself and ask the question? Sure.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, so I was just wondering, because 3 of you are more on the entrepreneurial side, and I haven't seen anyone from the consulting background. So I'm actually looking to be in the consulting industry, or at least the function post MBA. So I was just hoping to get some insight into any club activities or any sort of case study methodologies that you guys do that would help towards getting into the consulting space. Thank you.
Sure. I have shared a link in the chat box to check it out. Basically, this is a link to the strategy consulting and mentorship program that UBC runs, and there are a lot of students from Sauder that get to be a part of it. But just to give you a little bit of a caveat about this is that it is pretty competitive, so not everyone in the MBA will make through it. This year's SCMP, only one MBA could like get through the final stages of the program. With consulting, the thing is one does need to acknowledge the fact that it is one of the most competitive spaces to be in. And also consulting cycles start pretty early on. So if you are thinking of getting into the MBA and getting an internship in consulting, the time to apply is probably fall. So you get into the program and you should already be applying to internships in consulting. And as you probably are aware of it, because by case interviews, you need to be able to do case interviews by fall. So it makes sense to kind of join the SCMP network prior to getting into the MBA, or like as you get your final admission offer, I guess just connect with SCMP Club and sort of start networking with them already. Because what the SCMP program gives you an advantage and an
Did she freeze or is just me? Well, I think she might
No,
be having...
I think she did freeze.
Okay, no
I was
problem.
wondering the same, just like you.
There might be some Wi-Fi issue, but that's okay. I think she'll come back eventually and finish the question. But I think for now, let's move on with our session, and then once she comes back, we'll continue with the answer. All right. I think next part, I want to invite Michelle and Nidhi to talk about their global immersion experience, which is the very exciting 2 weeks in-country global experience where you get to do all the social activities, the sightseeing, the company visits, as well as your global consulting project. So I'll invite Michelle first to talk about her experience in Chile.
Yes, thank you, Patricia. So maybe before I talk about my GIE experience, which was in Chile, I'll talk briefly about the concept of a global immersion experience itself. So what it is essentially opportunities for students taking the full-time MBA to be able to do a 2 weeks abroad experience with destinations rotated pretty much every year, um, and do a real life consulting project with real companies based on your destination countries. And the way it works is that I believe around November, they would release the options when it comes to the destination you would prefer. Every student is given equal chance in terms of putting down their number one, two, and three preference, and then it would be selected randomly, so you cannot choose. And once allocated, then you'll be put into a group again. This will be chosen for you. You will not be able to choose, as well as a random client. And the way it works is that you start connecting with your clients starting from December, and then you will work remotely with the client in January and February, uh, when essentially afterwards you will then go to the destination country in end of February to early March and finish up your project, do a bunch of fun activities relating to the global immersion experience, I suppose. And then after that, present the results of your work towards the client. And after that, you have 1 week off, where usually a lot of students in our cohort chose to stay for some holiday afterwards. But coming back to my own personal experience, uh, I was fortunate enough to be chosen to go to Chile, which was my first options. And in terms of the consulting project, my client operates in a drone for forestry slash agriculture industry. So it was very interesting to me because part of the reason why I picked Chile was the fact that the country has a very lively startup ecosystem. So that aligns with my experience as well. With that being said, the GIE is not just about like work. I remember when I was there, we went to visit essentially a lot of the cultural things that help shape Chile as a country now, starting from visiting the mines, hearing lectures from the professors there, in understanding the political system and nuances that have shaped the country to be the way they are right now. And last but not least, we also had time to visit a vineyard, which is my favorite, of course. Afterwards, I also went to Patagonia on my own, so that's an option in terms of possible extension of the GIE itself. But coming back to more so the consulting experience, because maybe there are some people here that to sim similar to the person who asked the question about wanting to be a consultant. This is your opportunity to also leverage the client and the project to be put in your CV, or again network with your client to see whether there are opportunities when it comes to possible internship, perhaps, because in the past some people have had the opportunity to do internship with their GIE client. So that's another option if that's something that you are interested in.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. I see that Nidhi, you're back. We lost you for a second. You were in the middle of answering that question. Do you have more to add to the question earlier?
Um, No, I think they can just check out the link I shared, and yeah, there is opportunity. Although there will be a consulting club in your class as well, so you get updates on what's happening in that world. So,
Mhm. Okay, wonderful. Well, then I guess it's your part to share your experience in Singapore for your GIE.
okay. Me and Irene both were in Singapore for our GIE, as Michelle shared some of the timelines that were there. Singapore was a newer destination, 2024. The partner school was SMU. Um, their focus areas, of course, are sustainability. There's also a great startup venture capital ecosystem. Something unique about Singapore was the size of the family offices, which we were not aware of. And when we realized the funding sizes of the family offices, we were definitely taken aback. Um, just to talk about a little bit about my consulting project, I worked with a company that is in deep tech biotech in terms of food, and what our team was doing for them was like their go-to-market strategy. I think we thoroughly enjoyed working with our clients because um, the school was super supportive. The clients themselves were in, like, for me, it was deep tech. I think Irene's client, she'll talk about it, was on a different scale, but I think very interesting project in terms of like data and how they manage data. So yeah, we had like a great experience working with our teams. Part of my consulting firm's team was also sitting in the Bay Area. So it was kind of interesting to like navigate 3 time zones and still work with them. Yeah, we had like a interesting project, very interesting outcomes of that project. And as Michelle said, it wasn't all about work, work, work. We did have a lot of fun in Singapore. I'm sure Irene will share. There was a lot of sightseeing that happened. There was also a lot of learning that happened because Singapore is very unique in terms of how they manage their resources. So that was fun. Um, I mean, we had boba every day, and it was really nice boba
The best
and
part.
fresh soy milk. Yeah, Irene would probably add more about food and, her experience with her client.
Go ahead, Erin.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I can talk a little bit more about the fun part. In Singapore, as Nidhi and Michelle both mentioned, like just doing the project's not everything. I think we went to that beach, the beach in the south. I can remember the name. But it was really fun because like tropical beach is just different from Vancouver. They're both very enjoyable, but they're very different. And some of our classmates are really into jogging. They woke up really early in the morning every day and run to the what is that? What is that called? Like the hotel that's
Marina
that
Bay
that
Sands.
Yes, yes. They run from our hotel to Marina Bay Sands every single morning. It was it was really fun and food there was really good. If you're into Asian food, I think you can just find like a variety of different Asian food in Singapore. And frankly speaking, like it's cheaper than Vancouver if you're like eating out. So all of us enjoyed eating out, like just like the food there in general. And yeah, my project, I can share a little bit about my project. It's also really interesting. We worked for a pawnbroking business, which is a business that I've never worked with before. And we had to kind of develop a new inventory management project for them. We did that from scratch and we also like visualize it on Excel for them. And it's interesting for me because I'm already in I am in the operations field. So like and I really love numbers. So calculating numbers and calculating like what is their like the optimal holding of inventory for them is really fun for me. And the fun thing is that we also use the some of the operations framework we learned in class into that particular consulting project, which is the fun part about learning.
Thank you, Irene. I could see like when you guys were talking about experience, the memories, your face lit up. Like it's such a fun time where everybody just had so much, enjoyable moments. And let me show you, let me show everyone a video that we made. I think it's after is it the Singapore one? Yes, it's the Singapore one. So let's see. I hope you guys can hear the sound. Let me just take a.
One word to describe my experience.
Yeah.
I gotta think about it.
Perfect.
I would say wholesome, insightful.
I guess the hospitality has been really amazing.
The keyword here is opportunity.
My word is inspired.
As a spectacular one.
My one word is enlightened.
One word for Singapore is hot.
Heartwarming.
About challenge.
Discovery.
Enriching.
New food, new scenery, new weather, new everything.
Is the intentionality.
We learned so much about each other and about Singapore.
Interesting.
Okay, say more.
Yeah, interesting because and there was a plan to consider really cool. But it's nice to see what's the lovely like.
All right. Yeah, it's a fun video that we made after the Singapore GIE. But I think another fun part of this is that after you spend 2 weeks together, as a group, you find more about their personalities and everything. And it also helps you in terms of, let's say in the future, if you're managing a team with all different people from different cultures, different personalities, you kind of get the sense, how do you approach to a difficult situation? How do you manage people's expectations? And all that come from these little moments when you share time with your cohort. Okay, so all the moments are valuable. All right, so now we have about 5 minutes left. Let's take some questions. I know that I've prepared some questions for our ladies here because I realized that all our panelists are female, and I don't know how many audience today are female, but I do wonder, as a school, we always try to make sure we promote gender equality and everything. So I'm sure in the business world, in a usually traditional male dominating world, as females, there's, things, there's topics, there's challenges that you go through. So while we are waiting for more questions, let me just post a question for all the ladies, for all the panelists here today. So in the program, what are some of the most valuable skills or lessons that you gained from the MBA program, and how have they helped you in your leadership role as a woman? And whoever is ready can go ahead first. Let me just pin the panelists so we can all look at them. Any volunteers?
Michelle, I think you can talk a lot because interestingly, you're in, a fund that's kind of trying to break the norm. So I think I'll nominate Michelle to speak.
Go ahead, Michelle, you've been nominated.
All right. So let's start about the program itself. So since the very beginning, what drew me into UBC was also the fact that even throughout the admission process, there was an emphasis when it comes to DEI. So I knew coming in that I wanted to be able to learn how I can also bring that to my professional career moving forwards in Canada. And in the cohort itself, I would say that show up in the form of empathy because you met so many different people at different life stages with different priorities, and sometimes that, realistically speaking, can create conflict in terms of expectation amongst teams member, as some of us have briefly touched upon when we talk about our GIA experience, for instance. But then when faced with this kind of situation, which will occur again and again, even beyond the program, how you choose to respond and the open communication and feedback that you have with your teammates are truly some valuable skills to learn, and also how, despite of these conflicts, can you still deliver the objectives. That, to me, as Nidhi mentioned, proved to be very useful once I started my internship, because Nidhi is correct. My venture capital firm is quite unique. So traditionally, when it comes to venture capital, only 2% of the money goes into female or non-binary founders. And also when it comes to senior partnerships in the fund themselves, those are very rare. My fund, on the other hand, consists of only females. So that's something quite unique, because they wanted to be different in order to help, I suppose, break the system that has been in place for so many years. And through it, I learned the value of mentorship as well, because the partners, they have so many years of experience and so many leadership experience, but they are very much welcoming to nurture the next generation when it comes to talents. And that also inherently makes me want to put in good work as well and deliver a good job. So it's kind of like a two-way communication, right? When you are given trust, you also want to repay that trust by giving a good performance. And that is also something that I learned through the MBA, to not only depend on yourself, but also to help create and nurture a collaborative system.
All right, thank you, Michelle, for sharing your experience and also your insights on this topic. I'm seeing some questions from the chat box. I'm just going to address those because we're at time. So there's one question about, first of all, how many spots for our MBA program? Is the acceptance rate high or low? So there are 120 full capacity for the cohort. Acceptance rate really varies depending on the year and also depending on your profile, right? If you are really good quality profile, of course, the chance of you being accepted is high. So I would recommend you, either book a group session to talk with one of the recruiters and show us your resume and your transcript so we can have a better idea. And there's a question about, does anyone in the full-time MBA continue working during the program? So if you're talking about keeping your full-time work, I would say it's basically impossible, because your classes will be Monday to Friday, usually between 8 to 4. That's already full-time. There's also outside of class assignments time. You have to meet with your group projects and assignments. So the maximum that you can do, I would say, is part-time work, either over the weekend or on some of the evenings after the first semester. Usually during the first semester, like even though you have been working in Canada and everything, the first semester it's for you to adjust to that full-time study load. We don't recommend you to work after the first semester. If you have the capacity, part-time work, it's doable. There's people who work in evening. So yes, 20 hours a week for international students. But if you are, let's say, Canadian, you're a permanent resident, you can work as many hours as you want. However, for you to stay sane, to stay functional, I don't recommend you to put that much load on you, just because, study is your priority. You want to graduate with a high mark and you want to get the best out of the program first, right? And let me see what other questions there are. We do have another session coming up, because I see that we're over time now, so I don't want to take too much time of the panelists and everybody else. So I will share the event details for our next event, which is just a month from now. One second here. And next event that we have is similar as this, but it will be a ask me anything session. Basically, you can come with all the questions that you have. We will have our team members on this call. So basically, You will come with your questions, and that will be the last event before our next deadline. So make sure you register for the session. You can see there's a QR code right now on the screen. We'll also post the link in the chat box. I think Dini has already posted that. Thank you very much. There's one last question. How do I book an interview meeting with one of your recruiters? That's a great question. Let me send you the link to the chat box right now, so you can find how do you book a time with us and talk to one of the recruiters. Oh, there's another question coming. What's the typical number of hours of study and class per week? What about from the panelists? What's your experience? What would be a safe number per week? Class plus study time.
I don't think we can answer that. It varies, but you have time over weekends, but it's not a lot of time. So if that's about working on the side, I guess it's difficult, especially the early stages of the MBA.
Yeah, it really varies on your study style as well. I think some people like to do things all at once during the weekend. Some people like to do them in smaller bits. So I would say class, it's safe to say it's 40 hours per week. On top of that, maybe 10 hours just to spend on reading, assignments, and everything like that. Okay, so I've just posted a small group advising link. That's how you reach out and book a meeting with us. I know that there's still other questions that we cannot answer today. We're sorry for that, but stay tuned. We have more events coming. And I want to thank all the panelists, these amazing ladies who joined our call today to share their experience. And I want to say good luck. There's 1 month left for the program. And I look forward to seeing all of you at graduation. And I'm sure we'll see your stories on the UBC Sauder, either LinkedIn post or Instagram post and everything. And thank everyone who joined the call today. I hope that you learned something about the program. All right. Thank you very much. And looking forward to see more people in our future events, and take care for now.